On this edition of Independent Sources, crisis not averted. Thousands of mortgages still underwater in New York City as many minorities continue to suffer the sting of predatory lending. And Zing's Awesome Rice. A Chinese immigrant makes a high-end version of an old staple in an effort to raise the profile of Chinese food. Those stories and more coming up. Welcome to Independent Sources, bringing you news from New York's ethnic and immigrant communities. I'm Abby Ashola. The headlines about the impending doom we all faced because of the home mortgage crisis have slowly disappeared. But there are still thousands of minority homeowners all around the city who are struggling with mortgages they can't pay and homes that are significantly devalued. Gary Pierre spoke to Carolyn Nagy, the policy manager at the Center for NYC Neighborhoods, and Leo Goldberg, the center's senior policy associate, about why these people's mortgages are underwater and where they can turn for help.
Leo, years after the housing crisis passed, your report comes out that black homeowners in Queens are still struggling to make their mortgage payment despite several government programs to help. What happened and what's going on?
Well, it's been 8 years since the beginning of the recession, and we've seen property values increase throughout a lot of New York. But in areas like Jamaica and Southeast Queens, that hasn't been the case. And that's primarily because that's where subprime lending and predatory lending was concentrated leading up to the recession. And people in those areas are still struggling with mortgages that were inflated to begin with. So we know that 50,000 mortgages across the city are underwater right now. 20,000 of those are in Southeast Queens.
Explain to people who don't understand the term underwater.
Right. So that means that the value that you can sell your home for right now is below the value of your mortgage when you bought it.
So they are at a deficit.
That's right.
And if they were trying to sell that house, they would take a bath.
Right, that's right. It means you can't take equity out of your house. It means you aren't building wealth as a household. It means if you want to move, it's more difficult because you don't have savings to pull out and find a new home with. So it's a really important issue. A few years ago, there were many more homes underwater, so there's a positive trend overall.
I mean, give us a sense of how many we're talking about here.
Well, in 2011, there were about twice as many homes underwater than today. And across the city now, about 8% of all homes are underwater, but those really are concentrated in a few parts of the city, like the Northeast Bronx, Northwest Staten Island, Southeast Queens.
Okay. And Carolyn, from a policy standpoint, what has happened over the years to reduce this problem?
There are a number of things. There are several programs at the federal level, specifically HAMP and HARP, that exist to
translate for us. Those of us who are not in your world.
They're basically under the programs. It's making home affordable.
Are these federal programs?
Yeah, these are federal programs, okay. And they exist to provide mortgage modifications for homeowners so that they're able to stay in their homes and have payments that are affordable to them. And these are programs that have helped a lot of homeowners. And in New York City, what's really great is that all homeowners who are having trouble with their mortgage have access to free, high-quality housing counseling and legal services that are funded through the New York Attorney General's Homeowner Protection Program. And for homeowners, they can just get connected to services by just dialing 311, and they'll actually put the homeowner in touch with our organization, the Center for New York City Neighborhoods, and we can help those homeowners at an individual level. And so basically when a homeowner is in trouble, they've missed some mortgage payments, they're underwater, so that means that they owe more than the value of their house currently, they can work with their bank to get a modification. Now, as we've seen, this the process has not always been as straightforward as you might think, and that's where the importance of having good advocates.
There is a catch-22 with this modification process, because to qualify, you must show that you're in serious financial problem, and sometimes the bank requires that you don't pay your mortgage payments for months. Then that in turn ruins your credit. And so, what's the alternative?
I mean, I think this is exactly why homeowners really need to talk to a trustworthy professional who can advise them through how to deal with issues of default and which programs that they qualify for. Because you actually have a lot of, a lot of people running around who are really targeting homeowners who are distressed, homeowners who are at risk of losing their homes due to foreclosure, and they give them lots of conflicting advice. And before anyone, does anything about missing a payment or, trying to get in one program or the other, it's really important that they speak to a legitimate, trusted professional. And the best way to do that is really by working through the Center for New York City Neighborhoods and the Attorney General's program and getting connected to the free help.
Leo, were people totally clueless about the terms of these loans? Because you talked about these balloon payments. I mean, was this something illegal going on back in the early 2000s, that people were not qualified for loans, got them? What happened there?
There was a mix of things. Some of it was illegal practices by lenders, and there have been a series of mortgage settlements between attorneys generals and the federal government and banks who were doing illegal things. Also, the terms of mortgage lending were looser then, and people were able to get mortgages, not being able to foresee that the economy was going to go downhill as much as it did during the recession. So really a combination of bad timing and not enough regulation, as well as illegal practices. But what's important now is that you have people either way who really need help, and these programs that Caroline was talking about, these federal programs, HARP and HAMP, are going to time out at the end of 2016.
So after Obama leaves the presidency, what do the owners do?
We're working with advocates, and the federal government, state government, to try and figure that out.
Can they extend the programs? I mean,
Yeah.
do they have to end on 2016, or can they be extended?
Currently, they're programmed to end in 2016, but of course, we can't let them expire without some framework in place to help homeowners. And so that's a conversation that we're having right now, with people in New York City as well as in Washington, to try and make sure that we have a way of, that we don't, the bottom doesn't fall out for these homeowners who are still in trouble. And I mean, I'd like to pick up on a point that Leo raised about, why there are so many homeowners who are underwater, concentrated in particular areas.
The Black
Exactly.
communities.
I mean, this is where we come into, predatory lending and targeting, deliberate targeting of Black and Latino homeowners for these loans, which were really bad deals for homeowners in terms of interest payments, interest rates, in terms of all kinds of issues with the mortgages that basically, in some way, they were really never meant to be permanent. These brokers would work with homeowners and say, "Don't worry, they're going to have some bad things are going to come in a few years, but don't worry, you'll be able to refinance, and because property values are rising." And, the broker doesn't care. They got their commission. And then you had the financial crash, and all of a sudden, these homeowners are on the hook for really bad mortgages that there was no way that they would have ever been
So what
repaid.
are the lessons learned, Leo? I mean, moving forward, the American dream of home ownership will continue. So how do we make sure that what happened in the early 2000s don't repeat later on, a decade or so later?
Well, I think we'd like to see both at the level of federal government programs and regulation and just among banks and lenders, real attention to racial equity when designing programs. And we think that all working class New Yorkers should have an opportunity to own homes and build wealth through home ownership, and that can be done in a stable way that's accessible for people of all races. And now we're kind of at a point where we've seen a lot of mistakes in the past that we'd like our policies and our banks to build on.
Carolyn, your thought?
In a lot of ways, a lot of the most excessive practices leading up to the foreclosure crisis have been addressed, and they've been addressed well through financial reforms.
Give us one idea of what you're talking about.
Sure. So Dodd-Frank, which passed after the recession, led to the establishment of the CFPB, that's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And they've created better standards that for lending and also for mortgage servicing that make sure that homeowners are receiving transparent products that they can afford, and that also, if they are in trouble, that there's standards for how they're serviced. And so that's an example of a positive reform that has made some of the excesses of the past, that it will, resolve them going forward. I mean, there's two issues. One is, dealing with the thousands of homeowners in New York City and, across the country that are still working, they're still saddled with underwater mortgages. And then also making sure that we haven't made a credit too tight and closed the door to new homeowners in general, because it's very important that homeowners receive mortgages that they can afford, but it's also important, to create new homeowners and make sure that, working New Yorkers can aspire to owning a home in communities where homeownership has historically been affordable, like Southeast Queens. So that's an issue where, we have to make sure that they still have access, and there's still, that the lending hasn't become too tight to actually prevent that type of ownership generally.
Leo, one last question. Why has the property value in Southeast Queens haven't risen as much as other neighborhoods in the city?
There's been a lot of research on the effect of foreclosures on a neighborhood, and there was so much damage done by the recession in combination with some of the lending practices we've talked about that it damaged property values across the neighborhood. But there's also historical reasons for why Black homeownership and Hispanic homeownership exists in certain parts of the city. And that goes back to redlining, which was lending practices starting in the 30s, followed by steering and block busting, which were practices in which brokers led certain racial groups to certain areas. So there's a long history to why African American and Hispanics are able to buy in neighborhoods that haven't seen as much value appreciation as white homeowner neighborhoods.
Thank you very much. Carolyn Nagy, Leo Goldberg, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
When we come back, encouraging immigrants and minorities to save lives. Before that, Crystal Lowe has some other news.
Thanks, Abby. Here's a look at some headlines from New York's ethnic and community media. NY City News Service highlights the effort to get undocumented victims of domestic abuse to demand better translation services from the NYPD. The news service reports that the lack of interpreters is facilitating more cases of domestic violence that are in turn leading to more women being killed by their abusers. The NYPD has made moves to rectify this deficit, but advocates say they're not meeting the demands of a city whose non-English speaking population is growing. An organization that helps Hispanic domestic violence victims, called the Violence Intervention Program, is encouraging undocumented women to carry a piece of paper they have provided stating their right to access an interpreter at all times. The Children's Village in the Bronx is using a different way of offering mentoring to teenagers who will soon age out of the foster care system. The Arches Transformative Mentoring Program uses young people who have been through the system called Credible Messengers to support and advise these teens. The organizers say that these messengers offer more culturally relevant and relatable advice than someone who may have a degree and does not understand what these children have gone through. According to the Juvenile Justice Information Exchange website, foster teens meet with their mentors twice a week and address the challenges they face day to day through journaling and deep discussions. Natural Evolution's One Hair Story is a new report that calls for more federal oversight and regulation of hair care and beauty products made for Black women. The report was released by a California-based healthy lifestyle group called Black Women for Wellness. It states that both consumers and professionals face potentially devastating health consequences as a result of the sustained use of and exposure to toxic chemicals found in many hair care and beauty products over their lifetimes. The group is asking for federal regulation of Black hair care product manufacturers, along with the need for transparency and education about the health risks for consumers and hair care professionals. QNS reports on the opening of a new bakery in Long Island City called Sugar Cube Dessert and Coffee. Peter Zaharatos is the architect behind the new bakery that opened in February to explore form and chocolate and to introduce flavors from his native country, Greece. Zaharatos makes molds for his chocolate using a 3D printer. Many of the desserts sold at Sugar Cube take the form of cubes. The Bay Ridge native designed the bakery digitally and created many sections of the bakery on a 3D printer before building a space with his brother, who runs the design company Arxis League. And finally, an eclectic group of enthusiasts is reviving a forgotten instrument. The Village Voice profiles the Brooklyn Accordion Club, an ensemble who banded together in 2013. Members drive in from Westchester, New Jersey, and much farther to meet up once a month above Cobble Hill's Local 64 Cafe. Squeezebox ensembles used to be popular in New York throughout the early 1900s, when accordion and mandolin orchestras played across the city, from working-class dance halls all the way up to Carnegie Hall. But as the keyboard and guitar gained popularity, accordion players hung up their straps, and the few who were left watched their instrument become a goofy novelty. Those were just a few headlines from the city's ethnic and community media. Independent sources will be right back.
Thanks for staying tuned. There's a lot of fear and cynicism associated with being an organ donor in some communities of color. Some don't do it for religious reasons, and others say the thought of not being whole in the afterlife is disconcerting. An organization called Live On New York is trying to change that perception. One of their partners in this crusade is the Borough of Manhattan Community College. Gary Pierre sat down with Live On New York's education specialist, Karen Cummings, and BMCC health professor, Sophia Adinu, to talk about the importance of being a donor.
Karen, why is there a chronic shortage of organ donors among minority groups?
Well, there's a lot of misconceptions that occur when people talk about organ donation, and minority groups actually have a large misconception. One of them is that the doctors won't try as hard to save their life. That's probably the number one.
Okay.
And they don't really understand that the process of donation actually is something that happens with my organization, which is Live On New York. The hospital really does everything they can to save your life. And only after you've passed away do they approach our organization and notify us of your death. And then we're able to ask your family for consent if you haven't registered already to be an organ donor.
Okay, that's the first one. The other one that I've heard is that a lot of Latino groups, because of religious beliefs,
Yes.
don't think they should go to heaven missing a part of their body.
Right. They think that somehow that will stop them from going to heaven. A lot of people think it's against their religion, but most major religions support organ donation. That's the highest gift you can give someone, which is to save a life. So sometimes they think that the burial rituals or the death rituals that they have within that religion can't be followed and be an organ donor. But you can still do all those things and still be an organ donor, so that's an option.
And Sophia, you've been working years on this issue. You do a big event. Can you tell us about the event and why you're doing it?
Well, a couple of years back, prior to joining the Borough Manhattan Community College in 2011, I was involved with a Long Island Division TRIO, Transplant Recipient International Organization, where I met Karen. And when I started with BMCC in 2011, I was asked within the Health Education Department to put together an event that could make a difference in our community. So that's when I reached out to Karen, and together we developed this event, this peer education organ donation awareness event.
Tell us the details of that. I mean, how do you, first of all, reach out to people? How do you convince them? And what kind of success have you had since you started this program?
Well, it started off with reaching out to my students in my health education courses. And I took some time out introduce the topic, the issue, and ask for volunteers. So every year we get about 35 to 40 students that would like to volunteer, but we can only choose so many since we have limited space available. So every year we get about 15 that volunteer their time, and they volunteer about 15 hours or more, okay? So here, in these educational trainings, we invite Karen and myself and the students to educate them on organ donation awareness, and then they go out to the BMCC community, to their peers, and relate this information, the messages. And every year in November, we put together a great event where we invite students, faculty, staff, and we have speakers coming in from Live On New York, from TRIO, and we also have emergency room doctors from the area come in, and along with the students, they put together a fantastic event, which raises awareness. And since we've been doing this, we've actually had over 350 organ donors sign up.
Okay. So what else is going on around the state, if you will, Karen, in terms of awareness and education and everything else?
Well, we actually are really involved in voter registration. It's a huge political year, and New York State is the only state that allows you to sign up to be an organ donor when you register to vote. Oh, okay. And in the last presidential election, we actually registered about 75,000 people through voter registration. So we're doing lots of voter registration drives. We're working with the League of Women Voters, NAACP, and groups like that to really spread the word on the importance of registering to vote, but also signing up to be an organ donor.
75,000 people in New York State?
In New York State.
Well, that's a lot of people by any standard. So why is the problem still persisting?
Well, unfortunately, New York is 50th out of all the 50 states. So wow. Even though we register over 4 million people that are registered currently, we still are at the bottom of the list, unfortunately. Most states have over 50% of their residents registered. We only have 27%. So unfortunately, in New York, if you're in need of a transplant, people tend to wait a long time. And unfortunately, a lot of New Yorkers may die waiting because organs don't become available.
That's the argument that we all read about or hear about, the death rate among people waiting for transplant donations. How crucial is it in New York?
Well, 18 people die each day waiting for a transplant that they don't receive. So it's really a critical shortage. And because we're at the bottom of the list, people tend to wait a lot longer than a lot of other states.
Why? Why are we at the bottom? Is it because we have a large population of minorities? Sophia, do you have any idea why we're doing so poorly in New York?
I think there's a lot of misconception about organ donation, and we're not educating our students enough. So that's why we collaborated together to put this program in effect at BMCC. But
are the students the problem, or are the older people the problem? I mean, what?
I think unfortunately everybody's a problem. We really just need to get more people registered. I mean, that's the goal. That means people will not wait as long, and then lives will be saved. I mean, that's really the overall mission of my organization, which is Live On New York. And we handle all of the New York area, specifically all of the northern counties, Nassau and Suffolk. So our focus is really to save lives. So a lot of it is educating the public on the importance. Sometimes people don't know how critical the shortage is unless you've been touched by donation. The largest need across the country, but also in our area, is for kidney transplants.
Because you have a large African-American, Latino population, right, and with high blood pressure and all that.
Diabetes, lupus, a lot of those lead to end-stage renal failure.
Which is where your kidney failure.
Exactly, kidney failure. Most people wait in our area for a kidney transplant a minimum of 5.5 to 7 years.
I must make a confession. I've been toying about the idea of being an organ donor, but how do you go about doing it?
Well, it's really kind of simple. There's a form for you to register. It's also on the voter registration form. You can also go to our website, which is www.liveonnewyork.com. If you want to also register, you can do it through the DMV and go to My DMV. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, maybe through our educational events that we do at BMCC.
You can come by to the 4th annual event that's going to be going on November 16th, 2016.
Got a little ways to go for that one.
I know it. Mark your calendar.
Mark your calendar.
Sophia Adeniyi, Karen Cummings, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
April is being recognized as National Donate Life Month. When we come back, a Chinese immigrant leaves her Wall Street job as a corporate lawyer to pursue her true passion. Finally from us, ex-lawyer turned restaurateur Xing Bai is taking her passion for cooking to the Lower East Side. Xing's Awesome Rice offers a few healthier options of the well-known Chinese dish, fried rice. We learn more in this report produced by Shari McNeil.
I've been thinking about doing something around the food industry for actually a long time. In New York City, it's very a foodie city, very sophisticated people everywhere. However, people's perception of Chinese food, it's somewhat troublesome. Chinese food it's a very sophisticated culture and can be very fancy, very sexy, very elegant. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Chinese takeouts. I love them too. But there should be like many more layers to it. So I want to introduce this different element of Chinese food and bring to the market. This is something every Chinese kid grew up with. Each province cook their seared rice, fried rice slightly differently, but I'm sure all kids had experience. You come back home, oh, mom, give me something to eat. Here's a fried rice. So it's something very familiar within our culture. I'm a homemade chef, and I enjoy cooking many different type of cuisine and more like creative cooking. I try different fusion. But this angle is the Chinese pan-seared rice is something that I feel very strongly, very passionate about to introduce to New York City or American market. I guess one good reference point would be ramen, the Japanese ramen, ramen, which was not a familiar concept in the US at all 20 years ago. Now, ramen shop is on every corner. I think the Japanese restaurateurs did a great job introducing a street food, a late night snack food into the mass market. I think what makes us different from other Asian food is we focus on getting our process standardized. So we we test out different approach and distill the process into a good operational menu. And each chef, each line cook follow the exact same thing. We cook certain things down to, like we set timer down to seconds. So that way, I think the quality is very consistent. It doesn't matter who is on duty. The customer should have the same experience. Many times people come in and ask me, what's the style, what's the food here? Is it Shanghai, is it Beijing, what is it? So I would say we are an intra-China fusion. So it's like Beijing and Cantonese style fusion, but also with Thailand, Japanese, even Western cooking method. Many, many times when I was finally at home, 5 a.m., like I cannot feel my face muscle. I asked my boyfriend, like, remind me, why did I quit my law job again? Like, I question myself every night, but then the answer is always, oh, I actually love this life slightly more. I enjoy practicing law a lot. So to say I like this more, it's a very positive statement.
That's our show this week. Thanks for staying tuned. Till next time, be independent-minded.